Hey everyone, and welcome back, I guess, to the Bitter Geeks Podcast. For those of you who are listeners of our DC Films podcast, we've been a little bit of MIA for the past year. We were supposed to revamp into Bitter Geeks, and life kind of got in the way, so almost a year later, we're finally doing Bitter Geeks. Obviously, some big news has dropped. One of the reasons why we're doing this podcast when we are. We wish we could have done it sooner, but, you know, as I said, life's gotten in the way a little bit. But, hey, pretty much we're all here. If any of you guys have ever listened to the DC Films podcast, we got most of the crew back, and as well as a new member. So if each of you guys want to go around, introduce yourselves or reintroduce yourselves to the listeners, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
All right, I'll just go first. My name's Al Speed. I go by Al Speed on Twitter. Not really on Tumblr as much anymore, but I'm mostly on Twitter now.
Hi, I'm Jean. I'm Batch Activity on Tumblr, and Batch does rants everywhere else.
Hey everyone, my name is Artyom, and I am Grey Kongwa on Twitter and Tumblr.
I'm Rebecca, and I am Rebecca_MJ12 on Twitter.
I'm Emily. I'm E Queen of Mars on Twitter.
I'm Danielle, and I'm the Bravest Heart on Twitter and Social Justice League on Tumblr.
Hi, I'm Leanne. I usually go by Dash, and I am Lee-N on Twitter.
All right, and thanks for joining us. She's our newest member, and I've been wanting her on for a while now, and she's been part of our little corner of the DCEU fandom, so I've been definitely wanting to get her thoughts on everything going on lately. So guys, the fucking Snyder Cut's happening.
Yes!
Yeah!
The day is finally, it's almost 2 weeks later, but the day is finally here. Holy shit.
Holy shit.
We are, if you guys ever go back and listen to our old DC Films podcast, you can just hear the defeat in all of our voices after Justice League first came out, and just the energy. We were so amped up for the DCEU right before it came out, and we were like, Joss Whedon, you know, he's going to be a good choice to bring in to help Zack finish his vision. And now, look, almost 3 years later,
Naive children we were.
Yeah. We were young.
And no one watched my review of Justice League because I don't know what drugs I was taking at the time, and I apologize for anything I may or may not have said.
I think all of us
It's just
watching
like the
Justice
first
League.
stage of grief.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we all watched it and we're just like, oh, it's here, and then you wanted to look for good things in it, but once you really thought, you just kind of it really sunk in.
It very quickly
We
sunk
were
in.
denial.
And it's so fun. I never, granted, I've been hopeful of the Snyder Cut ever since the movement started, and, seeing everything, everything that Zack's been posting, I'm like, alright, he's teasing it. I don't know if that's only because he just is contractually not obligated to be quiet anymore about certain things, or what. I was honestly, the realist in me was you know what, I'm hopeful, but if we get it, it's probably not going to be for another 10, 20 years, so I'm not holding my breath out anytime soon. And then, when Zack announced the Man of Steel commentary, a bunch of people were keep an eye out on that day, or something's coming soon. And I'm like, you know what, I can't get my hopes up, I really can't, I've been hurt way too many times by these fucking movies, or with the behind the scenes stuff, I can't handle any more negativity. And then fucking the morning it was announced, I literally was gonna wake up, I was gonna watch the commentary, I'm like, you know what, I can't, I'll just watch it later. I gotta sleep, because Zack always loves to do these things when I'm dead asleep. And so I literally caught the very end of the commentary where he actually announced it, and I'm like, this isn't real. This isn't fucking happening. Someone's fucking with me. It's not April. It has to be April Fool's or some joke or something. It's not happening. Seriously, it felt like a fever dream or something. It sounded way too good to be true. I just didn't. I was in such disbelief. I'm like, holy crap! This is actually happening. We're finally getting Justice League in the way we're supposed to get it. I don't know how.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still in disbelief that it's happening. Like, I keep going back. I literally feel the way I felt after that first trailer of Justice League came out back in 2016, or was it 16 or 17? Whichever one of the first trailers was. After then,
first trailer would be 2016.
Oh yeah, because it was the Comic-Con. Yeah. So basically, I felt like then, like you're coming off of a high of being a DCU fan. Like we just got BVS, Suicide Squad. I think a lot of us were giving Suicide Squad like a little more positivity at the time. So like we were still like, all right, like we're on a good track, so far. And then Wonder Woman came out. We're like, all right, most of us like that. Critics liked it. Okay, we'll see what happens. And then in between that time and Justice League, it was just like such a weird time. And I remember one of the reasons we even started the podcast in the first place was because it had just come out like a week or two before that Zack had stepped down from Justice League. And I remember that day as being just such a sad day. And I literally didn't care about the movie at that point. I just cared about Zack and his family. And like one of the reasons why I wanted to do the podcast was just because like I wanted somewhere that we can be positive about Zack and his work. And here we are, like almost 3 years later, and Zack's finally getting the justice he deserves. And here we are 3 years later. We're all still here. We're all still here to support Zack, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And I'm just so happy for Zack on so many levels.
Yeah. Like I couldn't stop smiling when the news dropped. I was like you, Nick. Like I couldn't believe it was actually happening. And also on like a streaming service like HBO Max. And I think it's supposed to be kind of like a miniseries, kind of.
So they've said.
Have they confirmed it yet?
No. So they at this point it's still either going to be a 4-hour cut of a movie or divided up into like a weekly episode thing. So it's still up in the air.
I mean, I kind of just want the 4-hour cut. Like
Me too.
I can't do waiting every week for it. Like I would die.
Yeah,
I agree, but like, I think the weekly format would be a little bit better, maybe from a business sense, as people keep coming back to like the streaming service.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, makes sense, I guess.
I also wonder too if the episodic format won't be better in terms of how people are going to receive it. I'm wondering even if people are just like honestly, if we have like 50% of these people who are detractors are just literally confused. And if breaking that stuff up into little chunks would help them to like get what's going on in the actual, like maybe it would be more familiar to them, because the way that Snyder tells stories is not typical of movies these days. It's typical of television these days.
Mm-hmm.
So this might be like exactly the right idea. Like I would be pissed about
genre-wise. Yeah. Like, genre-wise, it might be more, like, timely.
Mm.
Because of, like, all the prestige television stuff that's going on now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Plus, he can include everything he wants if it's episodic.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the...
Yeah, I mean, one of the concerns was that he'd have to recut parts of the movie in order for it to, like, fit an episodic format, so that there'd be a conclusion at the end of every episode sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. So I'm of the mindset, like, I would lean towards the 4-hour cut more, just because, like, I kind of like just sitting down and, like pausing it on my own terms. Like, I understand, like, the business aspect, like you said, and, like, of the episodic format, and like that's fine. And obviously I'm not gonna not watch it just because it's cut that way. But I just think, at least for me, from my own personal taste, that just like cut as a film, I think it will work better, because I feel like I don't want Zack to have to recut certain things just to fit the episodic narrative if he doesn't necessarily have to. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm not saying it's going to be bad.
We're hardly respecting the episodic nature of television as it is right now, because, like, Game of Thrones,
Netflix.
for the last 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, they, like, didn't like, end the episodes. Like, they would just be like, and now it's over. And you'd be like, wait, what?
Yep.
What? Like, that was a whole episode? What's happening? Like, there's no tie at the end. There's no, like, there's no like narrative structure for that bit. Like they just sort of like, it's like they shot a bunch of footage and then just sort of like chopped it up randomly and threw it out there. I'm not saying that approach was awesome. I'm saying that, you know, they made it kind of optional.
Does it kind of apply to Game of Thrones anymore though? Because like the later seasons were bad.
Well, they set the standard. I mean, like, I'm not saying that like Game of Thrones is the template you should set your series on top of, because obviously that's a mistake. But they broke the rule first, and since then, plenty of series have been breaking the rule. I don't know that it's necessarily a good development, but it is one that Zach could definitely exploit. And HBO Max could definitely exploit it. I don't know that Zach's actually going to get a choice about which format we're going to use. Yeah. Still don't trust them. Weird.
I mean, I will say though, like, they have gained a certain level of trust in my book just for doing this in the first place, and like on like every single form of social media they've been promoting this thing. As far as like DC, like the Batman pages, the Superman pages, the Wonder Woman pages, like that is good to me. But at the same time, I think they're using it just to also as a marketing tool to get as many people as they can to watch and subscribe to HBO Max. Like it's
I think that.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a really capitalist-driven society. Come on, like, not to like, be cynical about it, but like, I mean, at this point, we just kind of like, have to trade off whether something's done because it's for profit or it's because of pure art. Because like right now, everything's run by like the studios. And
hi guys.
Oh hey Fatma.
Oh hi.
Hey there.
Oh my Fatma. Hi.
Hi. I just jumped on. Sorry for like being a bit late. But
okay.
Yeah. What was the starting point for this?
We're just talking about the Snyder Cut and just how we're all feeling about it, pretty much.
Yeah. So with the whole, I think I heard a bit of the 4-hour versus 6 episode /5 or however many episodes they'll do. I'm actually on board more so for the episodes, and that's surprising for me because I also prefer, like you said, Nick, to sit down and watch it in one go. But it also gives a bit of space for Zach to also, add a bit more to his cut in order for him to complete it. Because I don't think I'm not sure whether they will allow him to make any more DC movies, but it also allows you to have like a way to branch into the movies that came after Justice League, i.e. Aquaman, Shazam, Birds of Prey, Suicide Squad. That's a whole other,
yeah, absolutely,
thing that's going on right now. But it also gives a chance for Zach with the reshoots or additional photography that he's doing to flesh it out a bit, to conclude his arc in a way, because I don't know, and I don't think that he will get his 5 arc story that he was initially planning to get. But again, it also depends on how well this performs. So I'm for the series aspect, and then obviously or at least hopefully they will release it on Blu-ray, and then you can watch it in one go. Also, it gives us like a period of a month or 2, maybe 3, depending on how they release it. Maybe bi-weekly they will, just to increase people's subscriptions if it is 5 episodes or so. And in all honesty, I miss the vibes that we had back then. So the longer that we all on Twitter and Tumblr, whatever it is that you're raving about this, it gives us that feeling of happiness that we had before. So I don't know, maybe it's more of a positive in my opinion, but yeah,
it would definitely help build the hype. Like I think that sustained hype over time would be better for the possibility of future projects. I think the more noise that's being made consistently on Twitter, the more noise that's being made in general, the higher the subscription goes halfway through. this event, like, I mean, like, from a business perspective, I think it's the right move. I guess artistically is anybody's guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also agree with Fatma about Zack completing his Justice League, because, as we know, originally it ends with a cliffhanger that Wonder Woman kills Steppenwolf and his head rolls to Darkseid, which was supposed to be a sequel-bait ending. And maybe now he will be able to complete Justice League in a way that it won't have a sequel-bait ending, and it will be like a fully completed series or film, however he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there will be Justice League 2 or not, it all depends on how Snyder Cut performs. But at the same time, I kind of want Zack Snyder to tell a completed story this time, so that Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League was fully 100% completed trilogy, without us hoping for possible future projects, because it's unlikely. But again, at some point I stopped believing 100% in Snyder Cut happening at all. I was absolutely ready for not being announced during Man of Steel commentary.
Mm-hmm.
I was prepared for that and I guess that's why the announcement hit me so hard. I cried for 7 minutes after that.
I'm not gonna lie, I did too.
Cry.
The most shocking part.
I think I blacked out for a second and then started crying.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most shocking parts was Henry Cavill appearing on the stream. I was like, what? I mean, I pinched myself in order to understand that I'm not sleeping, that it's happening, something is going to happen. And when Zack Snyder showed the poster with the announcement, wow, that was best moment of the years, like by far. It's like a hole that was in my soul since 2017, like healed momentarily. And so yeah, I agree that Justice League might become a completed film this time without a sequel bait ending.
Yeah. I think when I first... Oh,
No, go ahead.
Thanks. I think when I first... I had a feeling that the Snyder Cut would be released, or at least it would be confirmed by the end of Man of Steel, mostly because, it's kind of been building up to that, from what I've seen. And I think the first indication that told me, oh yeah, Snyder Cut's definitely coming, and I know this is going to sound weird, but I think it all really came from Crisis. That one Crisis episode where Ezra Miller appeared on Crisis on...
No, that was insane. That was, totally, no one saw that coming.
Yeah, so when that happened, I was like, okay, something's going on here, because if they were really done with Zack's vision in Justice League, then they wouldn't have included Ezra. Or maybe they would have, but just something told me that something else was happening. So when the Man of Steel commentary came out, I was thinking, okay, this is Zack's first movie of the DCEU. It would kind of make sense to announce something big at the end of it. But, I wasn't going to hold my breath on it. But then when I saw, Henry Cavill show up in it, I was like, okay. Because I was looking at it via Twitter, because Twitter was talking about it. And when they confirmed that Henry Cavill had, appeared on, I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely confirmation. It's going to happen. And then it did. And then I proceeded to lose my shit. I'm not gonna. I kind of went outside yelling, "Yes, Snyder Cut, yes!" I may have disturbed my neighbors that night, but anyway. But yeah, when I saw it, I was like, "Oh my God! Finally, I get to finally see this stuff." And now that I think about it, all those scenes that were in black and white, all those scenes with Lois and with Martha, the scenes with Clark and Lois, the scenes with Batman, Wonder Woman, and Cyborg more specifically for me. But we finally get to see all of that content that, that poured his heart into for this. And we finally get to see it all come to fruition after 2017 was such a burnout. So for me, it's definitely an exciting time. And it opens possibilities to other things, as we've seen with, a certain other DC movie that might have its own version.
Oh.
Cough, cough.
I remember I don't know who it was saying that you don't trust, or you shouldn't be trusting them, or like at least giving them the benefit of the doubt. But bearing in mind that this is there is a new team on, and all the people involved in the whole 2017 debacle have moved on to different things. So hopefully, with the new people involved now, obviously never trust a multi-billion-dollar company anyway, because who in their right mind does that? But at the same time, it's also a great. It gives you hope, basically. There's more of a going back to the roots of what Warner Brothers has always claimed to be, a director vision driven, movie studio. So, and especially with everything that's happened, and it is a big L for them, in all honesty, because they've had to say, well, it does exist, we did change it, a lot of shit happened, and now we're releasing it and allowing the original vision to be seen. So, I mean, it was bitter, but again, the studio does own a lot of the characters that we love, So, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But at the same time, keep a distance, but still give them the leeway to be excited about the future projects and the things that they'll also be giving out with regards to DC. I don't know what else you guys like.
Mm-hmm.
HBO,
I think it's a testament to how fast things move now that Ayer can literally just be like admitting on Twitter that the toxic element, whatever toxic element it was that fucked up his movie, that fucked up Zach's movie, is like gone. Like he's just basically like, yep, those people are not part of this anymore. And it's like that on its own is reason to hope, is reason to like sort of like push forward and be like, hey, like maybe we can actually have what we want. Maybe this is actually something where I mean, like I think when Justice League came out, my assumption is that they would look at the box office numbers and, the healing would happen a lot faster because money's money, and if, I mean, like people are voting with their dollars, you can absolutely see where we want the franchise to go. And they're claiming to bow to popular opinion, and what they really mean is they're bowing to the people with the loudest voices on the internet, which is stupid, and it's baby shit. Like honestly, like it's 15-year-old crap, and I just am kind of astounded that a studio. I mean, like I'm continually astounded that a studio would actually bend to these folks, would actually be like, well, they don't like it, so that makes us sad in our heart. Like, I don't care about your hearts. Your hearts are not the point. You're a business. But I think it's definitely hopeful that Ayer feels comfortable just being like, I work with Warner Brothers, I continue to work with Warner Brothers, and whatever was wrong with the studio when I made this movie, I mean, acknowledging in the first place that something was wrong, but to say those people are gone now is huge. That's beyond huge.
It finally feels like hope is the potential of every person to be a force for good instead of hope being like a car keys.
No, exactly.
Yeah. And I think Daniel, you're right. Just like that energy of being able to see like Ayer, it's like so like simply put it on there on Twitter when all of the kind of information and communication that we've gotten since 2017 has just been like,
cryptic.
So cryptic, and hopefully it continues to be of this level of honesty. I tweeted something about that like last week or what, and obviously as a studio I'm still kind of weary, like you were saying, but I mean I want to be hopeful. it'll be interesting to see where everything moves forward once Justice League is actually released, and what kind of energy continues from there and how it builds upon that, whether it's the 4-hour movie or it's the episodic version, and what kind of impact either of those formats have to the future of like the DC films and everything.
Yeah, if they want to move the more controversial films, like whatever that means in terms of controversy, onto a streaming platform, I have no problem with that, as long as they're getting made, as long as they're able to get produced in a way that respects that artist's vision. I don't have a problem with those not getting a theatrical release. I think it's kind of rude to the films themselves, but I wouldn't have a problem if they put, the new Wonder Woman on streaming because of COVID. I wouldn't have been mad. I would have been like, oh, cool. Like, this is just a different experience. But I'm not terribly sentimental. As someone whose first job was working at a movie theater, I feel like it's okay for me to say, like, I'm not terribly sentimental about the theater experience. I don't think that it's as vital as a lot of like really big film nerds feel it is, but I also have a TV that's bigger than God, so that probably affects my attitude.
I totally know where you're coming from, because my first job too was working at a movie theater, so I have a bit of disdain towards it. But I feel like if I had a bigger TV, I would also not say like go to the theater, watch movies all the time.
It makes a huge difference. Oh my god,
it does. Yeah.
I was a huge detractor, I'll be honest. My girlfriend got it, and for the first, 2 weeks we had it, I was only calling it the ostentatious display of wealth. Like, I literally didn't call it anything else. I was very angry with this TV. And then she threw BVS up on it, and I cried a little.
Yeah.
And
doesn't it look amazing on it?
Then my attitude has melted like the snow.
If we had a bigger...
I'm not like
I would have a big TV. That's all I can say about that.
I'm not like a movie nerd, but I really like the theater experience. But I also don't have a big TV. It's like one of those old box ones. Oh. So it's a big improvement to like go to the theater and actually see it on a screen that isn't like, the tiniest thing.
Oh yeah, I get that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't mean to get all techie, but like, doesn't the resolution kind of hurt your eyes sometimes? So, like,
it hurts my eyes sometimes.
I was just like watching watching these movies, and it's like it's so high definition it blows my mind a bit.
Yeah, that's like the funny thing about this whole, like, ever since this pandemic started and all the studios started releasing stuff at home, and movie nerds were like, this is gonna kill the movie industry or the theater industry. I mean, they were already kind of dying anyway, so whatever. But also, like, as a parent who didn't really get out much before this, like, it just opens up so many more opportunities just to be able to, like instead of, like, hey, spend, like, close to $100 to go to a theater where you're paying for overpriced popcorn and soda just to watch it in a theater full of people on their phones, and, like, you have a douchebag behind you talking the entire movie, and then you have the one person, like, asking, like, I don't understand this. Who is that? What is this? I don't know what's going on. Like, there's always those type of people in the movie theaters, and I fucking hate it. So, by eliminating all of that, like, granted, like, some of these new movies coming out, like, oh, you paid $20 to rent it. Okay, maybe not ideal, but in my opinion, for people like me who can't get out as much, it's way better than spending all that money and potentially having your movie theater experience ruined because of some assholes who don't care about other people.
I also think it's the playing field for movie journalism, which is a thing that we're really concerned with in this fandom. We're gonna be able to open some doors for some people who maybe couldn't get to the theater very often, maybe couldn't afford to go to the theater every single weekend. Like, those people will be able to report on movies in a way that, like, doesn't require that economic privilege, doesn't require the physical privilege. They're going to be able to get out there and actually do that work And I mean, I think that's a big part of why film criticism is so overwhelmingly white, upper class,
Yep.
D-bags.
Yeah, there's privilege in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of privilege.
Plus,
Good point, Danielle. Yeah.
Well, I even think about. Sorry, go ahead.
Plus, streaming services, they allow for multiple viewings easily. And BVS was one of those movies that you have to see multiple times because every time you watch it, there are new layers of the movie that you open for yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, like I'm not saying the theater experience in its entirety is terrible. Like, I enjoy it, like, when I saw Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition, the one night it was in theaters, when I drove 3 hours to LA to see it in the AMC Burbank 16, in the Dolby Theater with leather reclined seating, in the best picture and sound possible, that was like a heavenly experience. Nothing else, like, no cinematic experience so far has really topped that. As far, like that is a great experience in and of itself, and I really loved it. But I don't need that every time I go see a movie. Like, I loved it and I appreciate it, but now we're in a new age. Like, we don't the theater business we don't need anymore. With the VOD and like we can like we're in an age now we can literally watch an entire movie on our phone wherever we are. We don't need to go to a movie theater. We don't need like all these things that people swear like, or if they don't succeed, the industry is gonna die. Like, okay, like movie theater businesses can like maybe convert to VOD and they might make more money that way. And this pandemic has shown that more people are willing to do that than ever. You know, like they released that new Scoob movie. Granted, I didn't think it was very good, but like they can do that now instead of like waiting. Okay, well we gotta drop it on here. Okay, then we're gonna put it on VOD in 3 months. So then like if it's I don't know. I just think this cuts out a lot of potential problems, especially if a movie might not have been successful in theaters because there wasn't the strongest marketing. Like, look at Birds of Prey. I think Birds of Prey was a good enough success for Warner Brothers. I loved it. It was one of my favorite movies of the year, one of my favorite DCEU movies. And it's been way better on VOD than it probably would have in theaters. You know?
Yeah, once it was released on video on demand, it was so annoying to have hundreds of people be like, hey, I just decided to check this out. Okay.
Oh,
right,
God,
awesome.
yeah, that was the
Why
worst.
didn't you buy a fucking ticket, you stupid dick?
Yeah.
Like, oh, put more diversity in movies, and why don't we have more superhero movies starring women and women of color? But like, I'm sure as fuck not going to buy a ticket when it actually matters.
I know.
So I mean, like, and we also use that as a barometer of like what people want, and it would be so much easier to just sort of like count the streaming numbers, you know?
Which a
like,
lot of people aren't doing
easier.
because it's so stupid. Like it's unfortunately like it's become one of those things like box office never considers VOD and DVD and Blu-ray release money anymore. They don't. So they say, oh, if it made Birds of Prey only made $200 million in theaters, so therefore it's a bomb. Well, also we're in the middle of a fucking pandemic. That definitely hurt its box office, like the official box office. But hey, look, it's probably one of the most talked about movies they've released this year. And again, because it's been a success on VOD, so like the whole box office conversation now is completely changed because now like the theater money isn't a factor at this place and time. So why aren't we actually show us the actual numbers, show us how it's actually doing? Because I think just from what I can see, just from the amount of people who are now discovering it since they've been home, like give them the opportunity to like be like, hey, this is a good platform for us to start releasing stuff now. Which is why the Snyder Cut being released on VOD, granted, it would have been nice to see it at a theater, but I'm perfectly okay with watching it at home. Especially because I don't want people who are like, oh my god, this movie sucked, why did I waste money to go see that? You know, which is what I heard walking out of Batman v Superman every time. I'm like, okay, like, whatever, I'm paying to see this for myself, not for anyone else. And now, by watching it at home, like, I don't need to deal with that. Granted, my wife doesn't like Batman v Superman, so that's a different issue in and of itself. But, like, with Zack Justice League, again, like, just having that comfortability to just watch that stuff at home without having to deal with the real-life assholes that are just there to trash a movie or there to be like, I don't understand it, or, that movie sucked. Who would pay to see this movie more than once, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like,
I think it's a massive...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think it's a massive hyperbole for anyone to be like, theaters are dying because of streaming services. Like, that's not happening, you know? Like, yeah, like, it's less important to go see a movie in theaters nowadays because you have all of these streaming services. But at the same time, like, there are a lot of people who like going to the theater because of surround sound and because of 3D and because of all this other stuff, you know? So first thing that the movie industry and the studios need to acknowledge how important streaming is and include that in the way that they judge whether a film has been successful or not. And secondly, I don't know, I'm the kind of person who really enjoys going to the theater, but I don't go to see every movie in theaters. Like, some movies you have to like pick and choose, right? Because some movies it might be better to see it on a big screen, and some of them you could just watch it at home and it's not a big deal. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not the kind of person who's like doom and gloom about movie theaters. Like, you know, I think they're gonna stick around and people are gonna continue to just pick and choose whatever they want to see and where they want to see it.
I think it's like any other industry. Like, they either have to evolve or die, and they're so stuck in their ways that they can't imagine evolving. But like, I mean, like, for those of us who have worked in movie theaters, like, the system sucks. Like, the profits all come from extraneous shit. Nothing really works. They've had to increase the price of popcorn to like $28 a bag now.
So stupid.
And I mean, they don't need to do that. Like, they can come up with something else. Like, there's definitely a better system by which these movies can be seen without treating movie theaters like just treat them like a venue. A venue's gonna charge, you know. A venue's gonna say, like, you know, we want a cut of this and this and this. And right now, their only cut comes out of really overpriced popcorn and soda. To the point where last time I went to a movie theater, it was like a freaking restaurant, and it's all bad food.
Yeah, it's true. And also, just to the point of, like, yeah, like I was saying, or like it was brought up, there's, you know, people will pick and choose kind of what they decide to watch at movie theaters. I feel like that's how, luckily in Toronto, there's this incredible IMAX theater that's like a dual projector laser thing. In the simplest of ways. But like, I usually only watch certain movies if it's going to play in that IMAX theater. Otherwise, I'm just like, oh, you know, like, I don't think it's worth like seeing it because luckily Birds of Prey was actually in that theater, which is technically like the highest price point. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, not only do I get to see it in, you know, in theaters like I want to, and I want to support the film, but I also got to see it in the format, like the format I wanted to see it in. So that to me, like, it just really, it kind of depends also on the movie theater, I think. But obviously, like you guys are saying, the fact that they're not taking into account, you know, VOD and streaming and everything like that is ridiculous. And also, Danielle, like, yeah, food there is ridiculously high because that's all the money that theaters make. It's off of the food. So it's such an odd industry. And like, I worked at a movie theater for 8 years, and I saw kind of our chain of movie theaters develop through that time. And then at the same time, it's like any time I would run the press screenings, every time like the quote unquote press would come, it's always just kind of these upper class white dudes. So, and these are the people like giving kind of like the reviews for films and trying to like quote unquote entice people to come to the movies. And I like saw both sides of that. And that's why, you know, I'm very picky about which movies I do actually see the theater. But I will admit that like certain ones I'm like, oh, I have to see that at the theater. And I'll go out there and, you know, go to the theater and not wait for it to come like on VOD or anything like that. But that's just my own personal preference. I'm not saying it's better than anyone else's, but, and I kind of hate that whole idea that people are like, oh no, you have to go to a theater to enjoy a movie. It's like, I personally like to enjoy going to the theater, but that doesn't have to be everyone else's preference. you know. And I do see a lot of people just kind of
And-
like say that too.
And it's also kind of like elitist and ableist too, because
Mhm.
on the elitist end of it, it's like me personally, I can't afford to even like go to all the movies that I wanted to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So making the decision to go to the theater is already like a big deal almost in itself, you know? And then from an ableist point of view, like there's so many like deaf people who have complained that movie theaters don't offer enough open captioning.
Mhm.
So, and you know, even like the theaters that do offer it, like where I go to college, there's like a lot of deaf people living in that area. And there's this movie theater, and sometimes they offer open captioning, but it's only like once a month. Like the first
Right.
week of the movie being out, do they offer one open caption showing? So, you know, streaming services like Netflix and stuff that just have the captions right there, it's so much better for people because the movie theaters aren't offering the kind of services that they need to in order to provide an equal experience for all the audiences.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think when we're talking about streaming versus theaters, we really have to consider the fact that that we live in a different sort of I mean, like with the internet, everything is instantaneous. So, I mean, like you'll have people out there who, if you don't see the movie the first weekend, they're gonna be unrepentant about spoilers. They're gonna be unrepentant about you know, blowing that up on the internet, and basically, if you don't see the movie on the first weekend and you're really, really, really excited about this movie, you're really hardcore into it, your experience is going to be ruined. So people are like under the gun to rush out to the theaters, and the theater industry enjoys that, but like it doesn't have to be that urgent. It doesn't have to be like, you know, make or break. I mean, a lot of that is our attitude, but some of that could be alleviated by just making it equal opportunity, making that release date be for the people at home and for the people who can afford and who can get to the theater physically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I understand all that and I agree, but I feel like maybe instead of having this 3-month window, maybe shorten it to the month, because yeah, I do see that streaming is winning this war on theatre or whatever it is that everyone calls it. But I do, like Leanne, enjoy the experience even with their shitty popcorn. I feel like it's a form of escapism when I know that I'm just going for that movie and I can just shut off from the rest of the world. At home, whether I like it or not, I've always got the distractions around me, so that's my personal preference. But I also understand the issues that come around it as well. But yeah.
No, yeah,
It's
and
also
that's totally fair.
being in a
totally get
room
you, yeah.
with strangers who also love these characters that you love. It makes you feel like maybe you're not alone. I don't know.
No, yeah,
But
and I get you. Like, that's the thing. Like,
you're
when I saw, like, when I went and saw Batman v Superman in LA for the fan screening for the Ultimate Edition, like that, I was surrounded by people for the most part who were fans of the movie. Granted, I did unfortunately have to. Are any of you guys know who like Hector Navarro and all those dudes are from like Hyper RPG and all that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I heard of him.
yes, I sat right next to him and his buddies who were on that channel for the Ultimate Edition screening. I didn't know who they were at the time. People were like taking pictures with them and like whatever. I'm like, all right, these dudes are kind of annoying, but whatever. But besides them, like I was surrounded by like nothing but fans, and it was a fun experience. Like I spent like literally like 3 hours in line just talking to people about the movie, and people who were like fairly big in the fandom too. Like it was so cool like seeing these people for the first time, because like at that point we were just like interacting on like Twitter and stuff, or like I'd watch their YouTube videos or whatever, and like being there for that experience. I'm glad I was there. Like the theater experience can be good when you're a fan and you're just surrounded by other fans who are, you know, into the same things as you are, want to talk about the same things as you are. My issues, obviously, like, and obviously there's nothing wrong with, you know, having the theater as a preference, but just, like, for me, like, especially because, you know, being a DCEU fan, like, we tend to like the movies that the majority of the world does not, you know? So, like, coming out of that kind of stuff where, like, people are just walking on the theater saying, oh my god, how terrible was that? How could anyone call that a good movie? That was objectively a bad movie, or whatever. Like, it's like, when you come out of a screening, like, of something you love and people around you are just trashing it, it kind of sucks. Like, granted you'll have that if you go on, like, Twitter and stuff, but, like, at least on the internet you can kind of surround yourself by people who do like the stuff that you do, and, like, come together and find those people, like I did with Man of Steel. Like, at the time, like, I didn't really have people in my real life who liked Man of Steel to the degree that I did. So that's where I came on Tumblr in the first place, and that's where I met Fatma, met Danielle, and met Katie, and met all these people, and now, like, however many years, like 7 years later, and some of these people are some of my best friends. So, like, there's good and bad to both theater experiences and VOD, but I think at this point, like, especially if it's a movie like Birds of Prey, like, I think it did okay in the theater, but VOD, I think, was maybe the better home for that sort of thing, and maybe for some of the smaller stuff like that, I think VOD might be just the better option, because it might make more money and might get more people talking about it, because, again, if it's a smaller movie that maybe people haven't heard about, they're not going to spend the money at the theater to go see it, but if they hear about it on the internet and be like, oh, I'll pay the $2.99 to rent it, you know, that's a bit more people to entice to actually go watch the movie, rather than, like, well, I can only go out to the movies maybe, like, once every few months, just because, like, I don't have the time or the money in my life to really do that all the time. You know, so, like, obviously there's pros and cons to both, but I think ultimately what they're doing with the Snyder Cut is really smart. Having the Snyder Cut be in a place where, like, they actually have some good quality content, too. Like, and being in a place where, like, hey, like, if it's not Netflix where it might get drowned out by a billion other different things, like, the Snyder Cut is probably going to define HBO Max for a while when it comes out, you know? It's going to be the thing to watch. Because right now, it just launched, but not that many people are talking about it. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff on there that has all the Harry Potter movies, a bunch of the DCEU movies, which I already own. And, like, they're doing a bunch of their own stuff, which I think is really cool and really interesting. But when the Snyder Cut comes out, that's going to be a big selling point for them. And it's going to help be easier for people who just want to watch the Snyder Cut, too, who also might watch other stuff. So I think it's, in this situation, whether it's the TV series or the 4-hour movie, I think it's a win-win for both the Snyder Cut fans and HBO Max and AT&T and Warner Brothers and all them, because it's in a place where, like, it won't be too much money, because you pay for 1 month of streaming and then cancel your service, you know, whatever. Only like $14.99 or however much it is. But at the same time, it's like, you can watch this as many times as you want and not have to worry about the theater and going out to the theater all the time. So that's just me.
I just suggest, and then I personally, so with international people like me and Jean here, I don't know who else is, and Artyom.
Yeah.
We have trouble accessing HBO Max up until they sort the contracts out in the countries that they're currently trying to sort out. And personally, I would really, really suggest that you, if you can, and you're able to save up money for at least 2 to 3 months of subscription to HBO Max, just to show the support that Zack Snyder needs to, like, consolidate himself with, you know, showing that yes, they wanted it and yes, they came out to support it. So the issue that I personally have in the UK, and Jean, when you come back hopefully, is that I absolutely detest Sky, and the person who owned it, he's sold it, Rupert Murdoch, and he's sold it, and sold it, sorry, and I detest it, and I've never paid any money towards it. But should HBO Max be only available through Sky, I will pay just to support Zack Snyder. So I do hope that we can, you know, have 2 to 3 months of that support, however long the series is available. And also with HBO Max, they seriously need to sort out their international contracts.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, we have absolutely no idea where to go, what to do. We have Now TV and Sky that we have to sign up for, or because they have separate entities belonging to separate things, and it's just getting really confusing for the fans internationally. I don't know how it's like in you in Russia.
Yeah.
How's it like for you at the moment?
I mean, I asked on Twitter, will it be ever available here? And they gave me a link to their support page on HBO Max site. And when I clicked the link, I got the page that this service is not available in your country. So I can't even get the help support right now on HBO Max to get the answers I need. It's like non-existent here right
They're
now.
definitely doing one of those launches where like everything's gonna be super bad on the front end, and that's pretty much like I've come to expect that from like Warner Brothers and related properties, because this is apparently just how they do things, which is basically going off half-cocked and just rushing in, because every single service that they've rolled out has been like this, where like
DC
everything's stupid. I still can't stream their DC. I don't even remember what it's called because I haven't used it in so long. The DC app, I still can't stream it on my television.
Same here.
Like we have to like literally like bounce it off a phone into the TV. And the same thing has happened with HBO Max, which is like not an option. Like they absolutely have to get that shit together. They absolutely need an app for the people to stream onto their TVs. Like they have a lot of kinks to work out. It's almost just really good that the Snyder Cut is going to take a while to get there, because early adopters are like not being rewarded right now. They probably should be rolling some of that money back to the folks, because like a lot of these problems, like they've had a lot of startup issues.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Especially if they want to compete with other streaming services, they absolutely have to go worldwide.
Yeah, that's the thing I don't understand.
Do you have access to Disney Plus because we have Disney Plus in the UK, so I'm just wondering if Disney Plus is all over the world now.
I think we do. I need to check this out. But we definitely have Netflix, so...
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. If you really want to compete with all these other streaming services, you need to launch in a way that, like, you're going to get to everybody. Like, I know you have all these other contracts and stuff with other people, but, like, how long has DC Universe been out and it's still not international? Like, 2 years, almost 3 years, almost however long it's been. Like, that's ridiculous. Like,
I think it's mainly because of the contracts that they've set up with a lot of the countries in order for them to stream. So apparently at the moment with Sky, it's extremely lucrative for HBO Max, for HBO to be having their content like Game of Thrones, I believe the Watchmen series and Pretty Little Lies or something like that.
Big Little Lies,
the one with Reese Witherspoon.
And I always mix up those titles too.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I think their deals are currently extremely lucrative for them, and also they knew that HBO Max was going to roll out sometime in 2020 or 2021. They signed a 5-year contract deal with Sky last year. So I'm just left to be extremely annoyed at why we can't have HBO Max. Also, Disney Plus waited it out until they were able to end all contracts with separate broadcasters around the world, and I thought that was great. But I don't know.
I mean,
why
honestly, in terms of rollout, in terms of like how you get that, how you launch that service, like they should be using Disney as an example, not in terms of content, because Disney Plus is apparently like, but
it's really lacking.
But in terms of rollout, Disney, if anything, their PR is fucking fantastic. They do an awesome job. They do a fantastic job with that stuff. And everybody should be looking to them to like how that's done, because the Disney Plus launch was amazing. Like I heard about it everywhere. I couldn't escape it.
Exactly.
Disney Plus was all over the place, constant.
And then, that's the thing too.
Disney Plus launch in Canada is interesting.
Oh, is it?
Sorry, Nick.
No, you're good.
I was just saying the Disney Plus launch is interesting in Canada because Canadian Netflix has like, I don't know what contract contracts they signed with Disney, because Canadian Netflix still has a ton of Disney movies on it and Marvel films. So the launch of Disney Plus in Canada was people were kind of like, oh, but it's still on Netflix. So it was really interesting when it first came out, because I know like a lot of people, but like I heard about it everywhere, because every time I went to work, they're like, oh, did you get Disney Plus? I'm like, no. But that's just because everyone knows that me and my fiance, like, we go to Disney World all the time and stuff like that, so they all just assume we subscribe to it. And I was like, well, no, like a lot of this stuff, you know, is still on Netflix, and a lot of this stuff I own already. So, but what you're saying, Danielle, is like, yeah, the way they rolled that out was just, it was everywhere, and everyone was talking about it, because there wasn't like every time I went to work or like met up with someone, they would ask me about Disney Plus. So, and I was like, I don't know, what's it like? Tell me.
And that's the thing too, like how they rolled it out too, like having such a huge property like The Mandalorian, like the first live-action Star Wars show, be what you're dropping at launch. Like something like that, as well as all your other movies. Like, having something huge to launch that'll help your brand. Which, like, granted, like the Snyder Cut obviously needs a lot of work to get finished, which is fine. But like, maybe it has something else. Like, I know like they have like HBO Max is like some like original programming and stuff, but like none of it is enough to get people to be like, oh my god, HBO Max is the best thing ever. It's like it's way better than Disney Plus. Like Disney, like had so much. They were doing like they offered so many deals for it. You know, like. I got my first year of Disney Plus for free because I signed up through Verizon. Because I have a Verizon contract. So, because of that, I don't pay for Disney Plus for a whole year. Which is ridiculous. Because you think Disney would want to try to capitalize on all the money they can make. And they offered that. And I'm like, alright, I'll take it. I'm not going to pay for Disney for a while, you know?
But that's the thing. Is that's like what they're doing is fluffing the numbers. And fluffing the numbers is great because it means that the advertisement becomes word of mouth. Like you're like all of a sudden you have a bunch of people who are around you who are like, oh yeah, I totally have Disney Plus, and you're like that's the peer pressure model of advertising. And it's the most effective one. Like if you think everybody else is doing something, you're 110% going to be like, well, I can't be the only person at the water cooler not talking about the Mandalorian. You know, this person is watching it already. I have to be in the know. And all of a sudden you're a Disney Plus subscriber without even like thinking about it.
Yeah, I think for, you know, Disney Plus, they definitely did a better job at, you know, being able to make things more accessible for, you know, people who want to be able to be a part of it. You know, they offered good deals. They promoted it very well. They're still promoting it even now, like brand new. And I think if HBO Max, you know, carried that same energy with their streaming process, then, you know, you would be able to see more people talk about it, and there'd probably be a bigger, you know, avenue for them to be on. Because, you know, like HBO Max has more stuff on there that I would like, more so than Disney Plus, because I'm just like, you know, they got like Fresh Prince, they got all the Studio Ghibli movies, they got like the Boondocks, they got DC stuff, and you know, that just attracts me more. But you know, with Star, I think they should try it.
Yeah, that's the thing, like, I'm glad I have Disney Plus, especially because like, I have a young daughter who's, like, really into Disney movies, but, like, if you're not huge into, like, just Disney stuff, and you're more of, like, a niche, like, okay, I just like Marvel movies, like, yeah, they have the Marvel movies, but it's like, what else do they have to offer? Granted, I know they're gonna have stuff, like, way later down the line, but, like, there's just, like, not currently enough on, like, that's the thing with these streaming services, like, they'll have, like, a few good things going on, and then they're quiet or, like, dead as far as new content for, like, a really long time. So, like, I don't know.
But the issue is with the Marvel movies, I don't really like the MCU. I like the X-Men, and they don't even have Logan. Like, Logan's part of it. I genuinely wanted to watch Logan, and I went on to Disney Plus. We'd already paid for the year subscription, and like I was like, okay, so I actually want to use it. Where's Logan? Why is it not on Disney Plus? Apparently, it's too graphic for Disney Plus, and I don't find anything else on there interesting personally. Like, maybe Sammy enjoys a few movies here and there, but I don't know. I don't think it has a diverse range of content. HBO Max has a lot of content, and they butchered it with the way that they launched. But I'm hoping that this is the time where they can learn and then like do a bigger campaign when this virus is over and when they've sorted their stuff out and they know what they're doing with it. I don't know. I genuinely have no idea what they're doing, but yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. So definitely we'll wait and see. But fuck it, just I still can't believe the Snyder Cut's happening. Like, I know we've been like talking just like how the streaming everything affects all of it, but just like even if the Snyder Cut is like the only good thing that comes out of HBO Max, I'll be happy. Because as a fan, that's literally like I could care. Like, honestly, if it wasn't for the Snyder Cut, I probably wouldn't have even cared about HBO Max at all. Probably wouldn't have gotten it.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Yeah, but that's the point.
Same.
But
that's
like,
the point. They've succeeded in their marketing strategy.
Yep. And I can't wait for it. And it's honestly, it's been so nice to come back and talk with you guys. It's been way too long.
Yeah.
And I promise we'll be doing this more often. It might not be all of us here at the same time. Might be a few of us here and there at a time, but we're definitely gonna try to get episodes in more often. But no promises, because I know so that last time, and then we went almost a year without doing anything. So
yeah. Actually, guys, I gotta go like right now because I'm kind of at a protest. So.
All right.
Yeah,
well, good luck. Stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe.
Stay safe.
Yeah.
Go fight the good fight.
Solidarity. Yeah, take care, Al.
Good luck.
I'll definitely keep in touch, guys. Don't worry.
All right. And on that note, I know.
Bye, Al.
All right, later, Al. I have to get going.
Hi, Al.
I have to get going here too in a second, but I do want to say we are doing this in the middle of all the protests and everything going on due to the murder of George Floyd, and I know people don't like people bringing quote unquote politics into stuff like this, but I want to say that just because I feel like I don't like being silent on issues like this. Like, what happened to George Floyd is fucking terrible. Like, we have a serious issue with the police and how they've consistently targeted the black community and murdered so many black people over the years, and it's just so ridiculous that this is always going to be the outcome of what's going on, and no change has ever happened as a result of everything. I'm in support with the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm supportive of the protesters doing their thing right now. And I'm not going to stay silent in all this because fuck racism. Fuck these terrible police officers who all need to be charged, arrested, and sent to prison for life for what they did. And yeah, I stand in solidarity with everyone who's been affected by this. I support them.
Yeah.
Well said, Nick.
So I was getting a little emotional there, but I just want to make sure I kept my composure as long as I did. But on that note, just be safe, everyone out there. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, listening to this, just be safe and love one another and be kind and don't be a racist piece of shit. Yeah. Alright, so on that note, I do have to get going, but if one of you want to go around one more time and tell everyone where they can find you online.
Yeah, I'm Emily again, and my at Twitter is eQueenofMars.
I'm Jean. I'm Jean. I'm Backed Activity on Tumblr, and Bat does rant everywhere else.
I'm Danielle, and I have to look this up every single time. I'm a Social Justice League on Tumblr, and I'm the Bravest Heart on Twitter.
I'm Leanne. I am Leadish. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go for sure.
All right. So I am Leanne. I am Leadish and on Twitter, and I do just want to say thank you again for having me on here as well.
No problem. Looking forward to the future episodes with you. I'm definitely excited. Glad we had you on.
I'm Rebecca, and I am Rebecca_MJ12 on Twitter.
All right.
I'm Artyom, and you can find me as Grey Conlaw on Twitter and Tumblr.
All right, and then you can find Al at Al Speed, I think. Let me see. I gotta look up his ad. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be Alex Speed at Twitter, and then you guys can find me at True Man of Steel on Twitter or Tumblr. Like I said, we're gonna try to do these more often.
Hi guys.
oh my god, and Fat Mel. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I forgot.
It's Fat
There's a lot of
Mel.
us. I'm sorry.
I joined towards the end. You can find me on Twitter at FringeFat.
I'm so sorry, Fat Mel. I really didn't mean to do that to you.
It's alright.
All right. So yeah, thank you guys for being here. Hopefully, we can get actually another episode here out soon. But thank you guys all for being here. It was really nice to get back with you guys, and I'll talk to you guys all soon. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.